given further instructions. A court officer tells everybody who's in the courtroom it is tense. Trump amazingly has closed his eyes, according to McBride. And I do want to say this, though. Regardless of the outcome here, we will respect that outcome on Political Beatdown, on the Midas Touch Network. We're not going to be saying it's rigged. We're not going to be saying it's unfair. Sure, if Donald Trump is not convicted, will that ultimately be disappointing based on the evidence and facts that we saw? Absolutely, it will be disappointing, but this is a law and order network. We respect the verdict of juries here, first and foremost, and I want to make that point very clear here. And I hope that's what you appreciate about our coverage, how fact-based, evidence-based it's been every step of the way. Dina, what are you thinking about right now when we're just moments away from this verdict in the Trump criminal trial?
I think that this moment of finally holding Donald Trump to account, and is it because he gets a guilty verdict, or is it because he has to stand there and listen to what that jury foreperson says? That is also our justice system. We now have on record for all of history everything that he tried to do to interfere with that 2016 election, to get into that Oval Office, that set off a chain of events that then allowed him to abuse the power of that Oval Office. January 6th, classified documents. This case started it all. If he had not gone into that Oval Office, none of the rest of it would have happened. This moment is the beginning of how our democracy has been affected by Donald Trump. And it did hold him to account. These last few weeks will never go away. People heard things they never heard before. There was finally a consequence to his action. Do I want to hear the verdict? I want to hear, of course.
And the verdict has just been reached. The jury hereby finds defendant Donald J. Trump guilty on the first count. The remaining counts are being recited. Let me repeat that again. The Trump criminal trial verdict is in. We, the jury, find defendant Donald J. Trump guilty of the first count. The remaining counts are being recited. So we have a guilty verdict here.
We got more. We got up to 10 counts guilty.
Yes.
Popak, you want to take it away there?
Yeah, we've got reporting as we expected. This is a binary decision. The 34. I always thought it was he's either in or out, guilty or not guilty of all counts, and that's how the jury is finding it. He's guilty of the second count, third count, fourth count, fifth count, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. I believe this will go right straight to the 34th count as a guilty plea. No holdouts here. Complete unanimity by this jury on all 34 counts. The 34 counts. They either bought that Donald Trump, was in a criminal conspiracy to either interfere with the election or to commit tax fraud as part of his business record fraud, or they did not. They obviously did unanimously. And now we're going to see, I'm sure, a 34-0 for this much beleaguered Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who now has 17-count conviction against Donald Trump 2 years ago and his organization for tax fraud on top of 34 counts. That's 51 counts in two separate juries, 24-0 on juries for this Manhattan District Attorney, who's the only one that first indicted and now prosecuted successfully Donald Trump for his criminal conduct.
We can confirm that Donald Trump has been found guilty on all 34 counts.
Woo!
Repeat that. Donald Trump has been found guilty on all 34 felony criminal counts. It was a wipeout there moments ago. Guilty, 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 guilty. I say that over and over again because that's what Donald Trump heard as he was sitting in the courtroom moments ago, just like that. I wasn't doing that to be hyperbolic. That is what Donald Trump heard. We, the jury, find defendant Donald J. Trump guilty on the first count. Then they went through each and every count and found him guilty of all 34 counts. We now will move into the sentencing phase as well. We will see what else is going on in the courtroom right there, but this was a historic moment. The fact that we are able to read that verdict here on Political Beatdown, a show co-hosted with Michael Cohen. I want to remind everybody as well to go to patreon.com/political beatdown, patreon.com/political beatdown. We're not funded by outside investors here at the Midas Touch Network. And thank you to everybody who's helped support this show. And one of the ways you've done that's patreon.com/political beatdown. We will set up a exclusive Zoom meeting with Michael Cohen on that Patreon feed. I can't tell you exactly when that's going to happen. There's a lot of history being made right now. But we are looking to arrange that, and we will let you know as soon as we do that. Dina, what do you make of all of this? And then we'll go to you, Popak.
Sure.
We are going to retire the name Teflon Don and replace it with Felon Don. For the rest of his life, he will now be a convicted felon. That will always be part of his legacy. I am not surprised about this verdict. Ben, you and I have been talking about this for weeks. I think we even were predicting it to be today. There was overwhelming evidence in this case, so much so that I'm upset the DOJ didn't bring this case, but at least here we have a conviction. Donald Trump had to face the consequence of his actions. He cheated his way into the Oval Office and covered his tracks, and he is paying for it today. Finally, the American people are getting justice by these 12 jurors who gave him the impartial and fair jury justice that he deserved, because he was an American citizen. Even if he didn't act like he deserved it, he deserved it. But the evidence was overwhelming. The questions we got from the jurors, they were clearly looking at the crux of the case, that Trump Tower meeting. They wanted to hear an audio, most likely the Trump phone call to Michael Cohen, talking about the